New York is quiet, but not because the war is over. It's quiet because something far more dangerous is about to begin. Two ghosts from different worlds are about to collide, and when they do, the city will never be the same again. Power never ends, it only changes its name. This is Power Legacy, Power Book 4. Force didn't just end a chapter, it opened a door that can never be closed again. Chicago is no longer the battlefield. Tommy Egan didn't just survive the war, he won it. His enemies fell one by one. Alliances shifted overnight, and the streets learned a hard truth. Tommy doesn't run from chaos, he becomes it. But victory always comes with a price, and that price is New York. The finale made one thing very clear. Power Legacy begins the exact second Force ends. That phone call wasn't just a moment, it was a signal. When Tommy called, Tariq answered without hesitation. No questions, no doubts. Because when those two connect, history repeats itself in the most dangerous way possible. New York has seen this story before, and it ended in blood. Tommy returns to the city that made him, not as a visitor, but as a conqueror. He's not coming back to hide, and he's not coming back to rebuild slowly. He's coming back to take everything. But this time, he's not alone. Tariq St. Patrick isn't the kid people remember anymore. He's smarter, colder, and far more strategic. He learned from the best, and from the worst mistakes. Together, they don't just threaten New York's balance of power. They destroy it. Power Legacy isn't about starting over. It's about unfinished business. Old streets. Old enemies. Old sins buried so deep that the city itself remembers them. Tommy knows every corner, every shadow, every place where bodies were left behind. And Tariq knows something even more dangerous, how the system works now. The streets have changed, the rules have changed, but the hunger for power is stronger than ever. New York isn't ready for what's coming. The drug game isn't controlled by one king anymore. It's fractured, unstable, and waiting for someone ruthless enough to unite it under fear. That's where Tommy thrives. And Tariq? Tariq thrives where intelligence beats muscle, where manipulation is deadlier than bullets. But Power Legacy isn't just about taking over. It's about legacy itself. What gets passed down. What refuses to die. Every move they make wakes up enemies who never truly disappeared. People who were waiting, watching, planning. The moment Tommy steps back into New York, the clock starts ticking. And once it starts, there's no stopping it. This isn't revenge. This isn't redemption. This is evolution. Power has entered a new era, and the city is about to learn a brutal lesson. When the past and the future join forces, the present doesn't survive. And this is only the beginning. The moment Tommy and Tariq touch New York soil, the city starts to move differently. Whispers travel faster than bullets. Old names resurface. Old fears wake up. Because this isn't just another crew trying to rise. This is a reunion that was never supposed to happen. People remember what Ghost and Tommy once did to the city, and now they see the echo of that chaos standing right in front of them. But Power Legacy isn't built on nostalgia. It's built on pressure. Tommy isn't the same man who left New York years ago. He's more controlled, more focused, but far more dangerous. Chicago hardened him. It taught him that trust is temporary and mercy is weakness. Every alliance he makes now comes with an expiration date. And every enemy he ignores becomes a future problem. Tariq, on the other hand, plays a different game. He doesn't need to scare people to control them. He studies them. He learns their habits, their greed, their fears. While Tommy handles the streets, Tariq handles the chessboard. And that balance makes them unstoppable until it doesn't. Because power shared is power challenged. New York's underworld doesn't belong to one family anymore. Crews operate independently, each believing they're untouchable. But what they don't see is how fragile their empires really are. One move, one betrayal, one wrong decision, and everything collapses. Tommy and Tariq understand this perfectly. They don't rush. They apply pressure slowly, forcing the city to bend before it breaks. But with power comes attention. Law enforcement isn't blind anymore. The ghosts of the past still live inside old case files, unsolved murders, and names that refuse to stay buried. Every step forward brings eyes watching from the shadows. And not all of them wear badges. Some wear smiles. Some pretend to be allies. Some have been waiting years for this exact moment. Family also becomes a weakness. For Tommy, the idea of building something lasting brings emotions he spent his whole life trying to kill. Wanting peace in a world built on violence is dangerous, because peace makes you hesitate, and hesitation gets people killed. For Tariq, legacy weighs heavier than ever. Living in his father's shadow means every decision he makes is compared to Ghost, whether he wants it or not. And then there's the question no one wants to ask out loud. How long can this partnership last? Because power has a way of testing loyalty. The higher you climb, the harder the fall. Secrets will surface. Lines will blur. And, at some point, choices will have to be made that change everything. Power legacy doesn't promise heroes. It promises consequences. Every win costs something. Every mistake demands blood. And as Tommy and Tariq push deeper into New York's core, the city starts to push back harder than ever. Because New York doesn't crown kings easily. And it never forgives. Just when Tommy and Tariq believe they understand the board, Power legacy reminds them of one brutal truth. New York always has one more move. The deeper they go, the heavier the air becomes. Deals start to feel unstable. Trust begins to crack. And every victory feels less like a win and more like a warning. Because in this city, the past doesn't fade. It waits. Old names start surfacing in quiet conversations. Old faces appear where they shouldn't. People who were supposed to be gone suddenly feel closer than ever. And that's when the question begins to haunt everyone. What if the biggest threat isn't new at all? Tommy has always believed in one rule. Dead enemies stay dead. But New York has a way of challenging certainty. Unfinished business doesn't disappear, it evolves. Rumors spread that someone is pulling strings from the shadows, someone who understands Tommy and Tariq better than anyone else ever could. Someone who knows their weaknesses, because they helped create them. For Tariq, the weight of legacy becomes unbearable. Every move he makes feels watched, judged, compared. The line between becoming his own man and repeating his father's path starts to blur. Power was supposed to set him free, but instead, it tightens around his throat. Because legacy isn't something you choose. It's something that hunts you. Tommy feels it too. That familiar pressure. That feeling that no matter how far he runs, New York always pulls him back into its grip. Peace was never meant for him. And the moment he forgets that, the city reminds him in the cruelest way possible. Loss is coming. Sacrifice is unavoidable. And survival will demand choices that can never be taken back. Power legacy doesn't ask who deserves power. It asks who's willing to pay the full price for it. Friends will fall. Enemies will rise. And lines that were once clear will disappear completely. Because when power reaches its highest point, the fall becomes legendary. And then there's the final truth. Power doesn't end with death. It echoes. It spreads. It lives on through fear, memory, and reputation. That's why some ghosts never stay buried. Not because they're alive, but because their influence never died. New York is about to learn that legacy is more dangerous than power itself. This isn't the end of the story. This is the beginning of a war that will define everything that comes next. Power never ends.